Hello once again, I'm Matthew Bainbridge. I'd like to talk to you today about language. Now, I'm probably going to be talking about language a lot, but particularly in the next couple of videos. This one regards the way language dominates the BDSM subculture and many of its related parts. And in particular, I'm thinking of titles and archetypes people use and randomly define a wide variety of words. But there seems to be a lot of discussion in the BDSM subculture and the DS subculture about terminology and definitions and what words and what terms and what titles mean what. And with some of this discussion, it can feel a bit absolutist, a bit like there is one way to experience these things. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that aspect of language in the subculture. But also, today I'm a bit more concerned with the way that new people who are first entering into the concept of the dominant-submissive relationship, particularly, let's say, a bit apprehensive submissive, who's confronted with language in a way that asks them to accept certain titles. As a friend of mine recently made very clear to me and reminded me, words have a great deal of power. That's one reason we spend so much time talking about language. And for a lot of people, words like slave and master, or whatever terminology you're using, whatever titles you're using, can be very intimidating. I recently was thinking about a relationship I had where I was dealing with someone who wanted to be submissive, and I got very much into my dominant role, and laid down all these things. Okay, I'm going to call you this, you're going to call me that, we're going to operate on this, structure, and sign the contract and all that sort of thing. And what I realised was, instead of something honest, I was creating something a bit dishonest, I suppose, or trying to take a structure that was in my head as what I wanted things to be and adapt them to a new relationship, when in reality what I really needed to do was allow the relationship to be what it was, to recognise that there was that aspect in the relationship and allow it to grow on its own without a lot of my trying to guide it and structure it and put it in a box. So, ended up with a very beneficial, very loving, dominant-submissive friendship, where, there was not a slave and a master. There was not a contract of, rules and these sorts of things. There was an understanding between people who loved each other. And I'm reminded of something that I wrote to Fate recently, and that was, I said, no matter what, it mustn't be the structures of the relationship that you're in love with. It must be the other person. In other words, you've got to love and care for the person that you're in relationship with, and the truth, the honesty of that relationship as it develops for you two as people, rather than trying to put constraints on it, trying to make it fit something certain, because that can be very intimidating to people. That can make people not want to go forward because they don't understand what it all means. And it's a scary thing to try to explore. But if you're just exploring a relationship with another person that you know and love, that makes all the difference. That makes things much easier to progress into. So think about that as you're going forward in new relationships. Think about the language you're using and the way you're defining yourself with your words, and be careful that you're not allowing the words to take control, but rather letting love rule.